Welcome back to Aussie Buckets main distribution warehouse here in Truganina, Melbourne. My name is Jordan and I'm the operations manager here at AB. Today we're going to be walking through our hydraulic tilt hitch and more importantly, how to install it. Let's get into it. So now I'm in my excavator ready to get this hitch installation underway. I just want to quickly note that the assumption we make in this video is that your excavator has already got a hydraulic quick hitch installed, as this is extremely common in our industry and most machines have quick hitch lines installed from factory. So essentially what we're going to be covering here today is removing your original quick hitch, putting on our hydraulic tilting hitch. Then we're going to move to actually fitting up the hoses for the tilting hitch itself, and then testing and commissioning for long-term use. So first thing that we're going to want to do is disconnect the quick hitch low flow lines. So these are commonly just either using a spanner or a shifter to remove these and then putting a plug in to make sure no oil is going to be leaking out. Of course we want to be doing this with the machine turned off so there's no excess oil being pumped through the circuit. So the next step is what we're going to do is by using spanners or shifters or a ratchet of some kind to remove the nut and bolt that retains the pins into the quick hitch. And once we've done this, we will then slide the pins out of the original quick hitch, disconnecting it from the dipper arm and the H-link of the excavator. Now that we've got the quick hitch disconnected from the excavator, what we're going to want to do is now line up our hydraulic tilting hitch so that it is parallel with the excavator, of course trying to line up the dipper arm with the original bush. And what we're going to want to do is remove the nut and retainers out of the hydraulic tilting hitch, take out the pins, and then we're going to try to slot the H-link into the rear pin slot and line it up inside of the hydraulic tilting hitch. We're going to put the pin through the tilt hitch as well as the H-link of the excavator, and of course then back through the tilt hitch side as well, and then retain this with the nut and bolt that we took out previously. A good tip to remember is that in terms of putting in your bolt, which direction you need to put it in, is you always want it to be facing as close to the ground as possible. And the only reason is just in case those nuts come off, the bolt will still remain inside of the pin and hopefully protect any of the pins from wobbling out. Now that the H-link pin is now connected to the tilt hitch, this is going to allow us to pick up the tilt hitch and it'll pivot off that rear pin. And essentially by balancing the controls of the stick towards the cab as well as the H-link ram, this will allow us to line up our dipper arm pin or the front pin of the tilt hitch and do the same thing. Slip that pin through as well as retaining it with the nut and bolt. And same as always, you want to put the bolt through the top and then the nut on the bottom. So now with the pins attached to the tilt hitch as well as the excavator, it's fully mounted in terms of mechanically. And the next step is just connecting the hydraulic line. So there's two parts to this. The first one is just reconnecting the quick hitch lines to the tilt hitch and the excavator. So using those same lines as the previous quick hitch. We're now going to plug in the hydraulic hoses for the tilt barrel. And with these, we always provide them with flat face couplers just so they can slot in easily. Now we're going to jump back into the excavator and turn it on. If you need to activate your auxiliaries, go ahead and do that for the tilt barrel function. One of the most important things to do before we start ripping and tearing with our new tilting hitch is we want to double check our flows and pressures through our auxiliary circuit on the tilt hitch to make sure that they're within the specified ranges on every customer's invoice. If you do have any dramas trying to check these pressures and flows, please get in contact with our support team and they will be able to assist you in the best way they can. Otherwise, if you know a local hydraulic technician or know someone to reach out to, they should also be able to assist with this part. And what we're going to do is slowly test the tilt either way. If you've got proportional controls, obviously try to mix these as small as a value as possible to ensure that there is no leaks anywhere from any of the hose works, and as well, same with the quick hitch. We want to activate this a couple of times to see if we can see any leaks coming through from any of the hoses that we've just installed. Once we've assessed that there's no leaks coming from any of the hoses, what we want to do is now a bit of a range test. We're going to start by tilting the hitch all the way to the left. And once we've done that, you can see that the hoses are all clear and that there's no leaks. We're going to tilt it all the way to the right and do the same thing, just to ensure that the hoses aren't going to be crimped or damaged for long-term use, as it's much easier to fix it now than it is a bit down the track. The next part of the range test is going to be curling and dumping the hitch to its full extension. And what I mean by this is if you imagine that you have a bucket on the hitch connected, it's essentially curling it all the way with the bucket up to scoop up material, as well as dumping it all out as if you're loading a truck. So essentially going through that full range of motion, and a very similar thing, we want to be checking for any crimps or kinks in the hose to identify if there's going to be any pinch points for long-term use. And that's going to wrap up our installation video of our tilt hitch. So from this point onwards, of course, use your tilt hitch to your heart's content. From here, if you have any questions, issues, concerns, anything of that kind, feel free to give us a call on 0399178598 and ask to speak to support. Otherwise, you can contact us directly on support@aussiebuckets.com.au.